Well, Struds, once again for the second consecutive game, the Edmonton Oilers find the formula early and then completely spit the bit in the second period. The Dallas Stars flipping the script in the second period of game two in a huge way. Here is my question, Struds. You've been in these games, you've been in these situations. When the Oilers are sitting there and they feel the Dallas Stars starting to push and they feel it starting to turn, what's the key to counterpunching? What's the key to pushing back? What can each player do in that moment to go out and grab some of that momentum back so it's not 15 minutes to a full period of being dominated the way we saw?
Well, it's a cliche, but you got to pay attention to all the little details. And I'm not just going to leave it dangling like that. Let's talk about what those are. So, specifically, when you're feeling like the world is coming down on you, the other team has got six players out there, it feels like, and the ice is tilted, you need to look after little things. So, D men, hard plays out to your forwards. Forwards, you have to be strong on the wall, and you have to make sure those pucks get out of your blue line or outside the blue line. Then, when you're charging up the ice, you can't turn over at the opposition's forwards, opposite line, blue line. You got to get that in behind their D, and then you go to forecheck. So all those little things that your coach talks about and you talk about amongst teammates over the course of practices, game 50, game 80, then get into the third round of the playoffs. Those things that they support you and hold you together. And then most importantly, and Chris Knobloch talked about after the game, you got to win puck battles. You got to get in there and win puck battles. You got to fight for that puck, whether it's in front of your net, in the corner, on the way out, or on the wall, as I talked about. That all makes a difference. So the details and then winning puck battles. And then slowly you turn it because you start winning and doing more good things than
Yeah.
the other team's doing. And then you're in your zone. But if you try to cheat or find, easy ways to get there, it quickly unravels as it did for the Oilers with three quick goals by Dallas.
Man, it's crazy. The Oilers were so dominant in the first period. I mean, they had the puck the entire period, it felt like. And then all of a sudden, Dallas just starts coming. And those details that you just talked about, I mean, you look at the goals against, mistakes at the blue line, mistakes in the slot. Those were the first couple of goals. Mistake on the wall, getting the puck out of his own end by Vinny Darnay. Like, these are the details, and the devil is in these details that you just went over in great detail. It's interesting. They got away from those for sure. Uh, let's dig in on Leon Draisaitl a little bit. He has been phenomenal in these playoffs. I mean, an all-timer of a playoff performer. He really has been something. But in this game, Struds, he took a little bit of a step back in maybe his attention to detail and keeping that engine of his moving the way it usually moves in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's been so good for the Edmonton Oilers. Just high level of play. And what I saw from Leon was he wasn't moving his feet as much as we've seen in the past. And specifically, kind of, I mentioned a little bit at the blue lines. What happens when you're standing still and the defender's facing, you're trying to beat them one-on-one from a standing still position, it's pretty hard. Now, it's different if you're on the wall and you're kind of holding, you've got your back to the player and you're facing the wall. Now you're shielding the puck. Leon is, if not the best player like that in the game, he's one of the top of a handful of players.
Yeah.
When you're facing a guy and you're trying to beat him coming off the blue line or standing still after getting a pass, it's a really hard play. And it kind of suffered because they poked the puck away. Now you're chasing it down. So, Leon's going to review this and see this. But when he's skating and he's using his body instead of trying to do it standing from a standstill, it makes a big difference in his game, Schauger.
Let's talk about Stuart Skinner and the goaltending. Fans online are always gonna have their way after a loss, especially when there's a goal that's not great. Skinner admitted that fourth goal wasn't great. Struds, do we think that behind the scenes there is any conversation realistically happening about who should start the next game? I don't believe there is. An Oiler fan might not love that, the overreacting Oiler fan, but I don't think there's a real discussion about who's starting next game. I believe it's obvious that it's Stuart Skinner. With that said, tough fourth goal.
There's no conversation. Now, Knoblauch has made that decision in a previous series against the Canucks. He chose to change and go to his backup goalie. Different situation. I look at the game tonight. The first three goals, hardworking earned goals by Dallas Stars, and then breakdown by the players in front of Stuart Skinner. The fourth goal tonight, a bit of a breakdown, and then 2-on-1 essentially. And Darnell Nurse is trying to pick his stay in front and not open that guy up. And it's a nice
That's the one he can't let in, though. Like, Skinner can't
that's
let that goal in,
that's
that
right. So
fourth goal.
Robertson gets it and he finds a little hole. He's got to make that save, right? That's
Yeah.
a save he has to have. But prior to that, he made some breakaway saves. There was some, it was he made some really important saves. Unfortunately for him, it was the fourth goal that hurt him. If he keeps it at 3, we're probably talking about an Oilers win.
I don't like the fact that this is a lesson the Oilers have already learned in these playoff struds. Hanging on to leads, right? Clamping down when you have a team on the ropes, not letting them fight their way back in. I know other teams try hard too, but the Oilers have blown leads earlier on in these playoffs. And then you talk about lessons learned. You learn that one the hard way. They've already been down this path. You cannot spit the bit with a 2-0 lead this deep into the playoffs against that team. How big a deal is it that they let that lead get away?
Well, it's disheartening, but I think that the return of Rupe Hintz really brought 2 players back because you had Rupe Hintz going and Jason Robertson, who had
Good
his,
point. Yeah.
his great night that he hasn't had in, I think it was 9 or 10 games he hadn't scored. So getting one is you get, 2 for the price of 1, and that was huge, and I'm not sure the Oilers, maybe they didn't expect it, or even the Stars didn't expect that from themselves, but they really got rolling, and the Oilers have now seen a level I don't believe had been previously seen from the Stars in the first, 2 games.
Yeah.
So now they regroup, they come at it, and I think this game 4 is obviously pivotal for the Edmonton Oilers, and I guess in the Stars indirectly. But now the Oilers know what level they have to get to, and they've got some interesting personnel decisions they have to make choices on. But I think the Oilers will be much, not caught off guard or surprised by a second period like we saw tonight from the Stars.
And I'll push you a little bit on those lineup decisions that they have to make. So they get Adam Henrique back for game 3. He scores a big goal. And I thought he looked pretty good in his return. But the Oilers are a deep team and they've got some good players currently not in the lineup. Struds, you think maybe there is one magical elixir that they have the opportunity to take that maybe will make a difference for them in
Well,
Corey
I'll put
Perry?
forth the idea of Henrique with Corey Perry. I believe when watching this game live, there's a lot of play down below the tops of the circles. And that's where Perry thrives. He's not the guy that's going to fly through the neutral zone with the transition, but he is when he gets down there and play, sorry, I call it the ground and pound. You see a lot of that type of style of play, and he likes that. Henrique likes that as well. Before I made the point a few series ago, Perry with McLeod and Fogle, it's not a recipe for success. They don't play the same way. Henrique understands how Perry works and vice versa. So you build a line around those two and bring someone else that can make that happen. I think you have another heavy ground and pound line that can make something happen. I'm not sure it will happen, but I'd like to see it happen for the Oilers to create that in the ozone.
And a bold decision by Chris Knobloch taking Ryan McLeod, one of the fastest skaters on this team, out of the lineup for game number 3. I believe they need to put him back in for game 4. McLeod needs to be in this lineup. I think he needed to learn a bit of a lesson here. His compete level needs to go up. But I think, Struds, that one game in the press box can be highly motivating for a guy who's been in the lineup every game all year. That would have been hard for him to take.
Yeah, it would have been a real kick in, the teeth. You're expecting to be a big part of this team. You're a third line center, and then this is what happens. Um, where he fits in the lineup, I'll be interested. They put him back at center. Do they put him on a wing? We saw him on wing earlier this season. Do they change up the top 6 for the Oilers? I'd have a hard time seeing that. So I think we're talking more third and fourth line. So Chris Knobloch has not been afraid to make changes. We saw against Vancouver. He went through some significant lineup changes from loading up the big guys to spreading them out, having guys that are in the lineup come back out. So I'll be really interested to see, but I think we agree. I think McLeod is in and Henrique. So that means that someone has to come out who probably doesn't deserve it, who's currently on the fourth line.
Great stuff, Struddy. Look forward to chatting again after game 4 on Wednesday night.